Oh, welcome to day 6 of this Inner Navigation series. It's our last day, can you believe it? So it's been amazing. I've really loved joining you all this week and coming on live and then sharing in the in YouTube as well with everyone who's been following along in there. Hello to those who are joining. Thank you. It's been lovely to see you this week, so regularly joining. So day 6 today. My preparation for joining has been clearing up cat vomit. What a lovely... I was like, oh my god, I've got to go live, and she's just done that. Great. Anyway, such is life. These things happen. So, so today, day 6, and I really hope that you took advantage yesterday for day 5 to go and listen to and watch the videos of Henrietta and Jackie and Nat on YouTube to hear more about who they are and their experience and what brought them into the exploration with me and what they've done before and what they've discovered since. So I hope that's been really valuable for you to watch and hear from them. Prior to that, of course, we've spent time understanding, first of all, the context of what we're doing here. Then we talked about where you might be in your exploration. And then we spent 2 days deep diving into awakening and then enlightenment. So then leading into yesterday with those wonderful people for you to watch, and today the Q&As. So huge thanks to everybody who sent through questions for this week, because it's actually one of my favourite things is responding to questions. So much so that I now have a channel, a playlist on my YouTube channel called Your Questions, My Responses, because it's actually from looking at my human design, it's my natural design to do that, to respond to people's questions. And I've actually noticed, so like on Thursday, this week, when I was talking for like almost 90 minutes each time on these lives, I was like, wow, that's so like not my normal way. And I can do it, but I do find it tiring because it's not my natural energy way. If I do lives in the community, it tends to be kind of like 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. So I love the question response thing. So equally, you guys who are watching live today, feel free to add questions as we go along if more comes up based on what I share. Because we know that happens too. Like when we hear somebody else's question, it can be either like, oh my God, yeah, I had that question too. Or it can prompt a question for us as well. So yeah, questions and responses are definitely a favourite of mine. And if after today more questions come up, then yeah, drop them over and I can add them into the YouTube playlist so you can have that response received there. So yeah, and the other thing today, of course, how could I forget? At the end of today, I'll also be sharing about your free gift, which is time limited and is actually space limited as well. There will only be 5 gifts available. So if you want to be in with an opportunity for that, then stay till the end so that you can hear what that's all about and what's available and how you go about getting it. So before that, we'll do these questions, and I'm going to flow through them in terms of, first of all, ones about the exploration itself and people's individual experience of life, and therefore wanting to hear my perspective of how does that fit then with what I've shared this week. Then I'll respond to some questions that were specifically about what I offer, so that if you're interested in that stuff, you can hear that stuff. If you're not interested at all in anything that I offer, you can then leave after the initial set of questions about people's lives and their experience, because after that it's going to be all about offers. It'll be the questions and my responses about what people have asked in terms of those, what's available, how people can explore with me. Then it'll be the gift, which of course is engaging in my world and getting more involved. So if none of that's interesting, then no worries, you can just leave after the first section of questions that I'll be responding to. So hello, lovely to see more people joining. Thank you for being here. Right, so let's crack on then. And obviously I have written them down off of the places where I collected them, or else I would never remember. Some of them are, lovely chunky questions about life. So, first question. Why do you differentiate between awakening and enlightenment like this? when you said yourself, they're basically the same process. So yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good question. And you'll know that like many people, most people don't make that differentiation. They kind of use those two words interchangeably. Rupert Spira is a big favourite teacher of mine, and he absolutely uses, or appears to use, those words interchangeably. I don't know whether he does have a different understanding of them both, but it sounds to me like he uses them both as though synonymous. So why do I do that? Because yes, I did say, I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, but I did say, no, it must have been Wednesday or Thursday. Yes, Wednesday, Thursday for the Awakening Enlightenment days. I said at one point, they're like two sides of the same coin, because the more we awaken to who we really are, the easier it is to enlighten. And the more we enlighten ourselves and clear up those psychological confusions of the whirlpools, the easier it is to recognise our essential nature and awaken. So they really are so interwoven and really one process happening. So for me, I guess perhaps there's two reasons why I could say that I differentiate. One is the benefit of emphasis. So when I'm in an awakening exploration with somebody, that's quite different in terms of the emphasis and the kinds of things we're talking about and the way we're exploring, compared to when I'm in an enlightenment conversation with somebody. Now that also isn't the same for everybody who's in this work. If you listened to the interview with Piers Thurston, which is linked in the bio, he was saying he essentially is always taking people back to their essential nature, because that is what supports the enlightenment process, and that's his favourite way of doing that. Whereas I use some different approaches within enlightenment, which therefore makes the awakening conversation quite different from the enlightenment conversation. It's all going in the same direction, but there's definitely a different emphasis that I put on each one, and different ways of doing it. All of my awakening exploration is based on the Complete Book of Awakening. So if that's the kind of conversation you like to have around awakening, then I'm come and talk to me, or equally talk to Sarah, who I wrote it with, because that's the kind of primary approach we take with awakening. Whereas enlightenment is for me different. As I mentioned, that's where I use the inquiring up, the inquiring down, and the inquiring towards. So we're testing the thinking, we're getting into close relationship with our feelings and our emotions and our physical sensations, and we're moving towards what do I want, what do I desire. So I have two different approaches, and although they're mutually supportive and support each other, there's a different emphasis, and there's a different approach that I take with each one. But even if I take a step back from all of that as to why and when that original distinction occurred to me, which was back in 21, in sort of autumn 21, it just made it so clear for me. It seems that a big part of what I do is create maps to support clarity, create conceptual maps and visuals and ideas to support clarity during this exploration. And that was a big map moment where it was like, oh my goodness, that is awakening, and that is enlightenment, and that makes so much sense of why working with that person had that effect, and why working with that person had that effect. It just made so much sense to everything that'd been going on. And to me, it's useful that we allow the conceptual mind, which loves a map, in on this exploration. Yes, it's useful to sometimes not speak to the conceptual mind, but I seem to find it super helpful, and my clients do. A lady yesterday who, she's had an awakening experience. She's currently in the experience of kind of being the observer of her life, which can be a phase that we move through during the process. And she found it so helpful yesterday to be reminded of the map of what's going on, to be reminded of that, who she is upstream, that awareness, the observer, which is currently observing all of the river. So yes, it feels slightly weird because it's not fully in identification, in fact, like that, as it has been. There's been this seemingly false distance created, but so helpful for her to go back to that map of the river and go, oh yes, that's what's going on. I'm fully in myself as awareness, and I'm not fully in the content of experience in the river. And of course, where we want to end up is in that loving, healthy relationship of intimacy with it all, because it is all us. There's nothing actually separate. We can't actually ever separate ourselves, awareness, out from any of what we're experiencing, but it can feel like that, and therefore it can feel different when we come back into full relationship with it. So it was so helpful to her within 40 minutes, having come in really quite caught up and quite, she used the words anxious and unnerved. And this is, these people I work with, they're very capable. She's doing a full-time job and being a part-time coach at the same time. Very capable people, but of course, when we're caught up, we get unnerved, we get anxious, we get disoriented by these things. And so by supporting her with that map of this is what's going on, it was like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. And to me, the more we are settled down in the experience, the more easily the return and that return to the full intimacy with life can happen. Because there's no support, there's no benefit to having a physical system that's in threat response through this process. Yeah, the more love, the more compassion, the more understanding we can have, the better, and the more easily we move through. So that, in a fairly lengthy way, is why I see it useful to distinguish awakening and enlightenment. And yeah, as I say, it's much more about emphasis than two separate things going on. But it does seem to me like that emphasis is useful and helps us, just put the emphasis where is useful at this point in time. Where would that be most beneficial? And in fact, that might take me on to jump to a different question than the one I was going to answer. Because somebody asked, where's that one on my list? Yeah. So somebody asked, well, how do I know? How do I know if I'm meant to currently have an awakening conversation or an enlightenment conversation? And in fact, their question had me think, wouldn't that be cool if there was some kind of simple diagnostic that would help identify that and help recognise which emphasis is more useful right now. In the Complete Book of Awakening, we use the Neti quiz as a great way of measuring. There's no other way to say it. I know some people have issues with measuring within the Awakening and Enlightenment world, but the Neti quiz is a great way of taking a snapshot measure of where I am now, what my experience is like now. And so that's already there as a way to see kind of where am I on that scale. Not that it's a competition, not that we're trying to get there, but as a byproduct of our exploration, it's a great little tool to see what's happening in that byproduct aspect of experience. So actually your question has prompted me to think that could be really handy to have something which is specifically about awakening and something specifically about enlightenment, because I feel the Neti quiz in some ways is a little bit of an amalgamation of both. There has to have been some enlightenment in order for some of the responses that you'd be putting on that quiz. So thank you for the question, because that might actually lead me to do something with that in terms of supporting you in identifying that for yourself and identifying some of the markers or some of the signs that there's more awakening available or there's more enlightenment available. For now, in the absence of that, the primary way is through discussion with me. So mostly through a discovery call. So I offer free 30-minute discovery calls, which is our chance to kind of talk, and I understand where you are and where you're at and what's been going on. Very often, in fact, I get wisdom coming through saying, oh, this is perfect for this person. So I get little nudges, and if I ignore it, it just keeps coming, going, offer them this. Sometimes it doesn't need to be separated, like we've just been saying, there's kind of one thing going on. So sometimes it'll be kind of like, well, definitely there's going to be a benefit to having face-to-face sessions. So whether we label it awakening or enlightenment, there's a thing to do there. So we just do that. So it's currently very intuitive and very much tailored to you and what's right for you. And I guess that's a benefit of the community where it's all of it. So then we don't need to differentiate. It's all included within there. But yeah, thank you for the question. And I've realised now why I was going to answer it later, because I'd said I was going to do the the responses to people's lives first and then do the worky stuff, and then I've just gone and done the worky stuff. But it fitted beautifully, didn't it? So let's go on to the next one, which was related to life experience. So this person sent a question saying, there's so much going on in my life. I feel overwhelmed and I'm trying to stay present and tell myself it's okay, but it's not helping. What can I do? This is such a great question and such a common and familiar experience. So notice in the question how they said, I'm trying to stay present and I'm telling myself it's okay. So both of those are signs that the mind is involved, the intellect's involved. It's trying to do something. It knows there's something else available. It knows that there's a nicer experience available. It's heard that I'm all okay with all experience. And so it's like, this is the best that the mind can do. It hears stuff and it regurgitates stuff. And then it tries to regurgitate that stuff at the moment that something is happening, in the hope that it's the words which will do the trick. That if I just believe the words enough or say the words enough, if I just try and be present enough, then maybe that'll be okay. But the trying in itself is a sign that there's effort. In fact, trying is a sign that I think this is a problem, but I'm trying to pretend it's not. I'm trying to hope and wish that it isn't a problem, and in doing that, rather than perhaps avoiding it like I have done in the past and like escaping into something like work or food or drink or anything else, I've heard about this spiritual stuff, so I'm going to try and be present instead because I've heard that's better. And of course, it's healthier for the physical system when we are aware that presence to the moment is more impactful and more supportive than escaping out into some avoidance mechanism. But you can hear within it there's fundamentally a fear of the experience. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like this. It shouldn't be like this. I don't want it to be like this. I need it to change. I'm not okay with it being like this. Oh, but if I could just try and be present, if I could just try and be okay with it, maybe then I'll be okay. And it's just not how it works. The only way it works is when there is genuine presence with what is, when there is a genuine absence of resistance to what is, when there is a genuine absence of fear with what's being experienced. So in these situations, the most impactful thing to do is acknowledge what's actually going on right now. Instead of wishing or hoping or trying to pretend it's different than it is, it's just to be with it as it is right now and go, oh my goodness, this is too much. This feels overwhelming. This feels more than I can handle. And when we do that, we're coming into relationship with life as it is right now, with our world and our experience as it is right now. Instead of seeing our experience and then going, oh my God, no, I don't want that. It shouldn't be like that. And oh my goodness, I think I'm supposed to be present instead. Okay, let's do presence. It's just not how it goes. It's just not how it works. And it's so cool because life will always teach us to genuinely come into presence. We can't fake it. The mind can't mimic genuine presence. So So if ever we're trying, the reason it gets worse and worse, and the reason it doesn't work, is because we're not being rewarded for that approach. We won't be rewarded for trying to be present by being given the relief. What we will receive is more discomfort and more overwhelm and perhaps more irritation that I can't get it. Because that is the alarm getting louder to say, no, really, drop all of that. No, really be with this as it is. So it's really a super kind system. We literally cannot go wrong with it, because it's always inviting us to come back to who we really are, to drop out of those whirlpools, out of the conceptual ideas of the mind, and come back to genuine presence with this right now as it is, with no need for it to be different, with no spiritual ideas of, oh gosh, but I've been in this so long, I should know this by now, or I should be better at this by now, or God, this is embarrassing, surely I shouldn't be feeling like this given everything I've read, all the courses I've been on, everything that I've experienced. No, just be present with this as it is, because this is how it is, whatever this is right now. And that's the freedom, that's the real presence with the life that we're wanting, not the kind that is imagining permanent flatline of Zen experience. The permanence is your essential nature. That never changes. This foreground experience always changes, always ups and downs like the river, always flowing, always with little ripples and waves. Who you are is the permanence, is the flat line, if you like, is the Zen, which never changes. And that's what's really wanted to be recognised, because then you are with this as it is. Because you, this you, the real you, the only you, is the one that is okay with all of it. And we just forget that when we temporarily identify with the whirlpools and it looks like this is a problem and it looks like it needs to be fixed or changed. So it's really amazing how life teaches us with this and shows us the way back home every time. So the next one, let's have a look. Cool. Okay, this is kind of similar, but there's a slightly different angle to this one. I've had loads of insights about how my experience is created and seen through loads of untruth thoughts, like your whirlpools that you've talked about this week. But now my emotional experience seems so overwhelming that I keep reaching for avoidance strategies, or I snap at loved ones. What am I missing? So I'd like to start by saying you're not missing anything. It's normal, and in fact it's part of what I've talked about, particularly in the awakening conversation that we had on day 3. Once something's been seen about that essential nature that we are, as I said that day, the lid is off. So all the contraction that's been held in the physical system, in the psychological system, believing I'm separate, believing I'm limited, believing I'm just this body and mind, there's a lot of contraction with that. And the minute we catch sight of the fact there's something I am that's before all of that, that's the lid coming off. That's the release and the relief and the relaxation, 3 R's, which is the feeling of our expansive essential nature. And in that expansion, even if it's just for a tiny moment, there is a releasing of those patterns of the whirlpools. Things which have been kept tight and contained are now able to move more freely. And depending on how much we've explored enlightenment prior to awakening, kind of determines how much there is to come out. Also depends on what our own volume of conditioning is like. And it seems like actually people with a lot of conditioning come into my world. I don't seem to get the ones who awaken, have a little bit of conditioning and are done. The people who come to me seem to have layers and layers and layers and very challenging life circumstances growing up or as adults. And so there's lots to be with, there's lots to bring love to. So anyway, the lid has come off, the thoughts and the feelings can now move freely again, like coming up for air. Oh, thank goodness, I've been kept down, trapped in this contraction all these years. Oh, I can breathe again, I can move again. And so in the movement of all these thoughts and feelings, much to our disappointment, thinking that awakening would bring us instant bliss and gratification, we must first of all move through this re-moving. Oh, that's never occurred to me before. Yeah, this re-moving, the movement again of the thoughts and feelings and emotions that have been kept stuck and contracted. And the only way is through. Because all our life we've tried to hold them down or cover them over with nicer stories. Or we've tried to avoid them and pretend they're not there. And that's not worked. Quite frankly, that's not worked. That's why we end up here in this conversation. So the only way is through and with them, not in avoidance, not in suppression or denial of them. So this experience, like this question has said, of feeling more reactive, feeling snappy, feeling overwhelmed, it's because these things that have been kept at arm's length are now free to move. They're able to come out to play. Now the human in us hates that. The mind, which thinks, God, I've worked so hard to avoid all this stuff and paper it over and pretend it's not there, and now it's all coming out. What's going on? But it's so necessary. It's such a necessary part of the process. Because these things, their nature is to move. Their nature is to be free. Their nature is to come and be here a while and then go. We've been holding them against their nature somehow. I don't know how we do that, but it seems to be what happens. It's as though we've held these naturally moving patterns in stasis. And now that they can move again, they will move. They will come up and out. They will present themselves. And perfect. Because only through that happening are we able to do, in fact, what I responded to in the previous question, which is be present with them. Now that they're here, now I get the opportunity to be present and with them and absent of resistance to them. And that is the settling of them. I often liken them to that 2-year-old who wants their parents' attention. Mommy, 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 mommy. And it can be the smallest amount of attention that the parent gives to the child, but that's enough. That's all that was wanted. Some acknowledgement. They wanted to be seen. And then the kid goes back to playing or whatever else they were doing. Same with all these thoughts and feelings that want to be seen and understood, want to be acknowledged. And it doesn't take that much presence, especially if we're in a container with 2 of us together and being present together with it. And then that is the settling of it. It doesn't need to go. It doesn't need to be, I've used that word removed before, it doesn't need to be removed. It just needs to be seen. We need to see that we don't need to be afraid of it. And then it stops asking for attention because it doesn't need to anymore. Now, sometimes we need to see it a few times before that happens. But ultimately that's what's being requested of us. Just to see it, just to be with it as it is. So as much as it seems kind of irritating to the mind that that these things happen post-awakening, it is a natural part of the process. It is something that is here to be moved through. The more we do that with presence, the more these things settle. the more there continues to be resistance to it, the more they'll just keep asking, mummy, mummy, mummy. So, yeah, really, presence is the answer again. And again, that can't be faked. That can't be a mind trying to be present with it, wishing actually beneath that it wasn't here. It must be genuine okayness with this exactly as it is. Then it sees that it's been seen, then it's been loved, then it's been understood, then it's been felt just as it is. And then it can go back to playing and moving and doing what it does naturally. Lovely, lovely question. So let me check the time. Yeah, I think this is good. I think we've got time for these. So this next one, it's a longer question. Yeah, there's a bit of connection to what we said before, but there is some difference as well. So let me read this one. I've been in the 3 principles for about 18 months and think I'm in spiritual denial. I was in a group where there was, in hindsight, inappropriate behaviour, and I should have called it out. But at the time, I was so confused about what was going on. I was first of all thinking, oh, it's them, they're in their thinking, and that's for them to understand and clear up. That's not for me to do for them. Then I started to think I was lost in my thinking, and that I was creating that experience through my thinking, and that therefore it was me that needed to do some inquiry, some clearing up, some understanding. Thinking that I was seeing it as wrong because of my beliefs. And then mixed in with all of that was because I've also heard everything is okay as it is. So then I was like, well, therefore there's nothing to do with this. How could that person's behaviour be wrong? Because I've also been told that everything's okay. So you can hear in this how much, and I've been here too, how much we can get confused in the exploration. Again, it's kind of going back to the first response, in fact, around when the mind gets involved. When the mind hears an idea and starts to think, oh, I'll get out my trusty tool which says that's their thinking, or I'll get out my other trusty tool which says that's my thinking, or I'll get my other trusty tool out which says it's all okay exactly as it is. All of which is exactly like the question identified at the start, forms of spiritual denial. It's ways of the mind using this understanding in, frankly, an unhealthy way, in an unintended way. I mean, the mind doesn't mean it. It's not trying to be bad. It's all it knows to do. Look for something that's going to make me feel better. Look for something that's going to supposedly give me certainty. Look for something that's supposedly going to put me in control. Great. Now I've got some tools. I'm going to use those tools. And next time something bad comes up, now instead of having to go and have a glass of wine, I can just say, oh, it's just their thinking, or oh, it's just my thinking, or oh, it's all okay exactly as it is. Brilliant. I've got some amazing get-out clauses now to difficult situations. That's kind of the thought process the mind goes through. But as we touched on in the first question there, that's like it is just the innocence of a mind that all it can do is take something and apply it. Take and apply, take and apply. Take this rule, apply it to every single circumstance. Now, in some ways it's true. It is the other person's thinking that will be leading to their unhelpful behaviour. In some ways it's true that your thinking is the lens through which you're seeing this experience. And it's absolutely true that everything is okay exactly as it is, because otherwise it wouldn't be here, it wouldn't be happening. And you are fundamentally okay because you are before any of it. You are the fundamental nature of all of it. So there is truth in everything that's being said. The only problem, and it's not a problem, it's a teaching point really, it's life teaching us, is this is an example of the mind trying to take these ideas it's heard and cookie cutter them across all of life. And that's just not how it works. Because the way it works is through genuinely being present in the moment, or having a genuine insight in the moment about what's going on. And that just being spoken or not spoken, acted on or not acted on in the world, with absent of all mind-made ideas at the level of the whirlpools. So it's the difference between this person's experience where they have come into the world via the whirlpools, which are saying, what's the right thing to do? How do I stay certain? How do I get it right? Oh, I'm in this whole new spiritual exploration. What's the right thing to do? What are the right words to say? What's the right tool to bring out of my toolkit? So via that whirlpool layer of beliefs, now the world is looked at with this person's inappropriate behaviour. And first of all, there's confusion, because whirlpool's nature is to swirl and to contradict each other and to debate and to discuss and analyse, and which is the right way, which is the right way, which is the right way. So the world is looked upon down there at the content level of the river, and it's confusing. I have no idea what to do now. And in fact, I'm so identified with these whirlpools, I'm just swirling round and round in my thoughts. And no words are being spoken to the world, no action is being taken, because I'm in these ideas of the mind. It's their thinking, it's my thinking, it's meant to be all okay. Oh yeah, so do I do something? No, I don't think so. I think we just sit here and we wait, because haven't we heard that as well? That if we just wait, this will pass, like all things pass. Yeah, let's just wait. And then, but it's all okay anyway. Yeah, so it's fine, we can just wait and everything will settle down and it'll all be okay. You know, this is the kind of mental narrative that we get into, which absolutely is the stuckness of whirlpools and can be labelled spiritual denial, because we're using ideas to deny the reality of what's happening. Because let's contrast that with if I come into the experience of life downstream, not going via whirlpools, and I see inappropriate behaviour in the world, the words and the actions just come that say, no, that's not appropriate. No, I don't like that. No, I don't think you should be doing that. And it just makes so much sense. It's so obvious. It's the most logical thing to do or say. Completely absent of any spiritual understanding or ideas or cute phrases. It's life meeting life and responding to life in that moment. And notice, you'll recognise right now, I'm sure, times of those two distinct experiences. So you can recognise the kind of clarity and assuredness and freedom with which you speak when you just come purely downstream into the world and respond to it exactly as it is. And I'm sure you also recognise the experience of coming downstream, getting caught in the mind-made whirlpool ideas, and therefore not taking action. And in fact, probably later on berating yourself, wishing you'd done something different, using that old, in hindsight, I should have really done something. But of course you couldn't, because you were identified with a mind that was debating what's the right answer, how do I get this right, how do I get certainty, how do I get control? So of course nothing could happen, of course you couldn't act, of course you couldn't speak up. And of course what you really want is that pure flow downstream, to be in close relationship with life exactly as it is, absent of resistance to it. But absent of resistance to it doesn't mean passive. An absence of resistance just means I'm not going via whirlpools. And so our pure expression has perfect ability to say yes, no, okay, not okay, I like this, I don't like that. All of that is available. So in fact, this person asking this question is perfectly correct. Yes, spiritual denial was, as the signs of it, most likely happening in that moment. And it's there for a reason. Because when we have those experiences and we see how we couldn't speak up, we see the consequence of what happens in the world as a result of that, we feel then the subsequent thinking that says, oh, you should have said something. So the same mind, the same whirlpool mind that said, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't think we should do anything, yeah, it's perfectly okay as it is, yeah, let's not act, is the exact same mind that then 30 minutes later, 2 days later, a week later says, oh, you should really have done something. That really wasn't okay. Yeah, you should totally have spoken up in that moment. Really? Really, mind? You didn't tell me that at the time. But perfect, because it's all showing us all of that suffering, and we talked about suffering this week as well, all of that suffering is there beautifully, perfectly, in order to wake us up to the fact we're doing that in the first place, in order to have us see that we are going via a whirlpool idea and how the outcome is suffering. Indeed, the experience of it at the time is suffering. And to allow us to have this kind of conversation where we then can contrast that with the times when we come purely downstream into pure, intimate connection with life exactly as it is, with our yeses and our nos and our that's okay and that's not okay. And we all know, we all feel that. That's really what we want. That's really the freedom that we're looking for. So, such a great example. And take that across all of your life. That's happening in various places all the time. There might be different words used to avoid or deny it than those spiritual phrases that this question had brought. But that same experience is happening everywhere, in little ways, in big ways. And our navigation of it is that feeling of it. Notice the feeling when we're caught in the whirlpools and how yucky that feels, how stuck that feels, how not aligned that feels. And then contrast that with the times when you're in pure flow, responding to life exactly as it is, how grounded that feels, how aligned that feels, how right that feels, how obvious it all feels. That's our barometer for whether we're caught up in the ideas of a mind or whether we're being our pure, genuinely spiritual self and responding to life as it is. Lovely. So, yeah, I'm going to go on with one more question. Yeah, I'm going to go on with this one more question about our experience. And then I've just got a few that people have asked about what's available in terms of offers and services. And then it will be the free gift. So if you want to hang around for that, do stay tuned. So this last question then, which is another great one, which often gets asked. 2 seconds. So this last question. When I look to my essential nature, it doesn't feel like anything special or worthwhile to do. It's just emptiness and neutrality. So what's the point? And it's it's such a great question, such a familiar question, me too, from the beginning of the exploration. And is kind of again a great example where the mind is saying, what's the point? The mind is getting involved because for a mind, if you imagine the whirlpools in the river, so if you imagine you're at the level of the whirlpools right now, all that level of river can do is look downstream. It can just look to the world. It can look to the content of life, and it loves that. It's like a candy store, sights and sounds and colours and objects and people and oh wow, look at all this stuff I can look at. Look at all this stuff I can get involved in. So a mind loves that. A mind loves stuff. It loves objective experience. It loves objects. Things. And although there is to an extent it can turn upstream and look upstream to who you really are, its biggest love is looking to stuff, to looking at the content. And so and it's been doing that all its life. From when we were born, our attention has been directed, for most of us at least, outwards. We've been invited, encouraged, taught to look downstream. Look at all the stuff. Yeah, get your job sorted. Yeah, get your partner sorted. Get your kids sorted. Oh, look at that car. Yeah, go buy that car. We've been taught to look at the stuff. So at the beginning in this exploration, when we are inviting the mind to turn around and look upstream, to see what is it that's looking. What is it that's aware of the mind? What is it that's aware of all the stuff? And it hates it. It's like, you're taking me away from my candy store. Why are you doing this to me? So often people will say to me things like, oh, no, I just don't like it. It's a bit abstract. You're not showing me anything. This feels really pointless. Or can actually get quite scared and quite cross and say, stop it. Stop making me look up there. I want to look down here. But as we look, and when we do look, and when the mind first looks and sees what is before the river, what is before all the content of experience, what is it, who is it that I most essentially am before all the stuff? At first glance, the mind's like, there's nothing there. It's empty. There's just nothing. Like, why would I look to that? That's pointless, which is exactly what this question is saying. At best, the mind might see it's neutral. It's a neutral, empty space. Okay, so what? Why do I care about that? But over time, as we continue to look, and as we continue to become familiar with the nature of that seeming emptiness, which looks pointless, and we come to recognise that, in fact, that is the most essential aspect of ourselves, and that is the undivided, unseparatable aspect of all experience. That is the movement into the wholeness that everyone is looking for. That is the movement into the knowing of the non-separation of you and I. Yes, there's the appearance of separation here at this content level, but at our essence, at our most fundamental, nobody has ever found any evidence of separation at that level of awareness, that seeming nothingness, but which is the space of awareness. It is the fact of awareness. And in the recognition of the absence of separation there, that is the remembering of ourself. That's the remembering of the permanence of ourself, the constantness of ourself, the primacy of ourself, and that all oneness. Oneness that people talk about is that. And the reason people talk about it being so worthwhile looking towards is because ultimately that is the feeling of love and completion and home that really everyone's looking for everywhere else. We've been looking for it downstream in the content. We haven't found it because it was always upstream in our essential nature. And when that's seen, it's so settling. It's the consistent feedback we receive through readers just emailing us, or people in the book group, or self-study members saying there's just more settledness, there's just more okayness, there's more calm. Even if the foreground is doing this, there's a calm that's known, more fundamental than this that's happening at the front. And that's really what we want. That remembrance of ourself, that feeling of ourself. It's what we're looking for in everything else we're doing. So yes, absolutely, in the beginning, the mind will say, that's pointless. Why would I bother doing that? I've got a whole candy store of stuff out here in front of me. Why on earth would I look upstream and look to emptiness? But we keep looking. When it makes sense to us, we keep looking. And we keep looking, and we see deeper and deeper and deeper, and recognise and recognise and recognise. And that recognition of our nature grows and grows in that feeling of the heart and the connection and the love and the, then the more loving behaviour towards others. We stop trying to rescue others. We stop trying to people please. We stop trying to control or look for certainty, because this is the space of deep okayness. That's the deep okayness that we've referred to in some of the previous questions, which allows all of what's happening downstream and includes all of what's happening downstream, all the yeses, all the nos, all of the likes, all of the dislikes, all included. The okayness is before all of that. So, unintended, but perhaps quite a nice question to finish on in terms of those experiences of the exploration and of life and how this all fits together. So I hope that's been useful for you, and I'd love to hear, of course, on the back of this, as I said at the beginning of these questions, if they've prompted a follow-up question for you, or if they've prompted a new question for you that hadn't occurred to you before, then drop it in the comments, drop me a DM, get in touch with the website, so that it can then become something perhaps we chat about a bit in DMs, but it might be something that turns into a video on that playlist I mentioned, Your Questions, My Responses, which is there for anybody to access and ask questions for me to respond to. So hold that thought in your mind if there's something that has come to you already or comes to you over the next few hours or days. So I said I would hold the questions around the offers and services to the end, so that if you feel you've received everything you want to receive today, if what you're most interested in was these questions and responses to life experiences within the exploration, then you'll of course head off and do whatever feels good for you in your life. And huge thanks and appreciation from me that you've joined and been part of this week and been part of today. But if you would like to stay and hear these, just a few questions that people have sent through about what's available to do together, and then I'll be sharing about the free gift at the end. So I've of course already touched on that first question about how do I know if I need awakening or enlightenment. This next one, somebody's asked, they've said, you've mentioned the Wild Fig community, but what do you get in there? So because I was probably quite clear that with the Thoughtful Raven community, although ultimately it will be about all the books that will become part of the Thoughtful Raven world, its primary attention, direction, is currently the Complete Book of Awakening. The Wild Fig community is a little different in that, yes, there is that awakening element in there, of course, because it's part of my work, and there is more around the enlightenment conversation. So there's much more of a kind of general, come here to be at home, bring your life stuff here, come home to it here. It's like a melting pot of experiences, a melting pot of different teachers and resources and ways of exploring. It's a home base to bring stuff and feel safe, sharing and asking and receiving support and guidance. It's those are the primary things that people say they get that sense of community, that sense of safety, that sense that it's all included, it's all welcome, it's all okay. There's no element of, oh no, that kind of thing doesn't belong here. It's around the awakening and enlightenment exploration, so there's kind of a theme of the kinds of teachers that people listen to, or guides they listen to, or courses they go on, but it's all included in that. Yes, that teacher has something valuable to say from that perspective, and this one has something to say from that perspective, and who knows what might click for you. So there's this inclusion of it all in that way. The other thing people say is the kind of intuitive timing of things. So unintended by the level of whirlpool called Helen, I share things, I ask things, and very often people are like, oh, that was just as I needed it, that was just the right timing for you to have gone live about that, or for you to ask that as a question, or whatever the thing was, or to share that resource. There's something intuitive that happens in there around when things when things get shared or asked or offered. And actually that goes as well for others who are in there are also offering services, for want of a better word. So I have a space within there called the Sanctuary Services. So at one point, 2018 in fact, I had this vision of having a physical building with different services available within that building, like art and yoga and this exploration, of course, and sound therapy, and there would be a gorgeous cafe, and it's like, that would be so cool. So anyway, currently there is a mini version of that, an online version of that within the Wildfood community. So as well as the stuff that I share, we've got a member of the community called Luna Gladman, who shares tarot cards and readings for that. And we've got Nat, who was one of the people who featured yesterday, and he shares something called circling, which is a beautiful practice for getting present with our experience as it is and including it all. And so in fact this week Luna did a card reading for the eclipse that happened Thursday, was that? And it was so amazing because it was so... And Luna's amazingly intuitive with the cards. She gave such a beautiful intuitive reading with the only one card she picked for the eclipse, but oh my goodness, the energy that came in response from the community was just beautiful, with people going, oh my god, yes, that's what I've been feeling, yes, that's been my experience recently, and just giving that sense of, yeah, me too, yes, I've been in that kind of egoic patterns coming up. And it just, as I said earlier in response to one of these questions, when there's that understanding, it's that relaxation, we return to the feeling of ourself. And that return to the feeling of ourself is the space from which something fresh can come. Because we've gone, oh yeah, it's like this. The resistance has fallen away. So it's really, really gorgeous to have that and have those other opportunities within the community. Just to give some practical stuff in case that's helpful to you. So there are 4 levels to the community. The first level is called the meeting space. And some of the main stuff in there is that there's a community discussion feed. So it's kind of like for in the moment, this is what's coming up for me. Here's a question I want to ask. Here's a free thing that's short time available if anybody wants to jump on this. Whether that's mine or people share other people's, somebody's doing a webinar, somebody's doing a free conference, whatever stuff might be coming up. That's kind of like our in the moment, day to day, week to week kind of place to chat. There's also a monthly call which all members get access to, and which currently is always focused on a member. So we're meeting each other. One of my words for this year was together, and the word came after the idea, in fact, for this shift in these calls. It was like, there's a cool version of together, because by having each month one of our members being the centre, we're just getting to know each other so much more deeply and understanding each other's experience, as well as, of course, having that reflected back to us so that we can go, oh, wow, yeah, I see that. That was my experience too, and to be part of that shift together and part of that understanding together. So that's the first level of membership. They're the kind of 2, there's more stuff, but they're the kind of 2 main things within that first level of membership. The second level of membership is called the learning space. So that's much more about archives and resources. So there's a resources feed, which is like a library of books, podcasts, videos, loads of resources in there. So whatever's going on for you, type that word in and you'll have loads of great stuff in there from me, from other teachers, all right there for you. Also in there's an ask your question space, which is for when there's a bigger question, which isn't just a quick, here's a thing I want to ask. Often we'll jump on a 30-minute call to answer that question and in discussion, so that we can do it almost like a mini live coaching session, so that other members benefit from that too, but also you, of course, get a satisfying response to your question. In there you also get all the archives from the monthly calls, and they've been going since September 21. So there's loads of great archive recordings in there. And there's a set of trainings which are like my river that I've shared with you all this week. I've got loads of different visuals like that. So there are currently 10 trainings in there which bring different visuals, different conceptual ideas of, or maps of what's going on in our experience. But by representing it visually, it really helps with the cementing of that and the getting of that, the landing of that in our system. So people have said they're super helpful to have those trainings there. So that's level 2 membership, the learning space. Then level 3 membership, the deeper space, gets a weekly call every Friday, which is it's a space to bring whatever is going on. So I've talked a lot today about this absence of resistance to life as it is, and that's very much a group call where we share our experience to life as it is, and we're with it as it is. And we share experiences, and we share resources, and we share ideas and hints and tips, and we sometimes do some deeper exploration, like we've done some inquiring down and getting close and friendly with deep experiences in the body, which have actually unlocked a lot of things for members who are part of that. So it's a very fluid call. It's very much right on the day for whatever it is that's coming up that day. And when we trust in that, we trust in that intelligence of life, that we will have the conversation that needs to be had that day, that we'll go where we need to go, that we'll do the kind of inquiry we need to do. It's very much guided by life in terms of how that is, and therefore it's relaxed, it's easeful, it's intimate, it's connected, it's really lovely. So that was level 3. And then level 4 is called the whole space, which partly speaking to who we really are, partly speaking to the fact that you get access to the whole of the community from that level of membership. And the extra benefit with level 4 is that you get private one-to-one time with me. So I've mentioned that on Wednesday and Thursday in relation to awakening and enlightenment exploration, that if you want some private time with me and it's too much of a reach, or you haven't got the time in the diary to be able to do hour-long sessions, it's an amazing way to get that private one-to-one time with me, but on messages. So we text and we voice memo each other as and when things come up for you. I offer observations and questions and inquiries and suggestions, obviously all aligned to and intuitively based on whatever's happening for you at that time in that moment. And in fact, often thinking about intuitive, something that sometimes gets built into that is these energetic tune-ins that I can do. So where I connect into your energy and receive messages and receive guidance and receive suggestions of what's going on for you, and therefore what is most supportive of you right now. So I guess you could call it like a channeled message or a psychic reading. I think it could be called all sorts of things. I call them energetic tune-ins. But that's also part of what can really nicely build into that level 4 message exchange, so that we've got a combination of our conscious mind exchange, but we can also bring in that deeper guidance as and when that's wanted, if that's wanted. Optional, entirely optional. So that's the whole space. So you get access to everything in the community, and you get that private one-to-one message time with me, which I really love. I love the spontaneity of it. I love the fluidity of it. I love the fact we get to connect in a way that is different to being on Zoom. It's that spontaneous in the moment, means you get the response in the moment as it's live, sometimes to the point where we can do an inquiry down into what the actual experience physically is, the physical sensations in that moment. So that's level 4, the whole space. So I hope that's helpful. Any other questions on the community and what it is and how it works, obviously send them over and I'll be very happy to answer those. A couple more questions on services, which should be quicker than that. I talked quite a lot there about the community, but I do love it. It's blooming awesome. This next one, are energy transmissions safe? So I've mentioned again on both day 3 and day 4, and probably actually earlier in the week as well, because given part of my journey was to receive transmissions, energy transmissions are supportive alongside both awakening and enlightenment. again, with that emphasis thing I've talked about today, they can be emphasised towards awakening or emphasised towards enlightenment, or we can just trust that it's gonna do perfectly what's needed on that whole thing on that day. So are they safe? Yes. Now I've been doing them for a year, a bit over a year now. So relatively short time compared to my mentor who's been doing them for, I think, over 8 years now. And she said to me, in all that time, she's had 2 people who she's said, okay, stop having transmissions now. And the reason was because they had some significant mental health concerns and transmissions were just evidently making it worse. So if you have a clinical or chronic mental health situation, then that's something that we would talk about. It could well be that we say, actually, no, transmissions probably aren't the right thing for you. But anybody else? Yes. And for a couple of reasons. One, because the energy is intelligent and does exactly what you need it to do. It will, like all of this exploration, we get just what we need just as we need it. And I've seen that over and over again, both from the language-based aspect of the exploration and from the energetic aspect. So we can absolutely trust that you will get exactly what you need. And if there is any concern about that, if there's any concern, any worry, will it really be okay, then we've got some choices, because as we go into it, you can request it within, just as you set as we go into the session, you can just say, just give me a small bit today, just give me a little bit, just let it drip through, like not too much today. You can make that request and it will respond. That's the nature of this energetic experience. Ask and you shall receive. But equally, we can reduce the time. So I've got a client just now who has some physical, like, health challenges, and was fair enough concerned about how transmissions might impact that. So we've started with a couple of transmissions that were only 5 minutes long. I tend to do them for 15. So we just did a little 5-minute transmission just to kind of test it out, just to see, well, how did that feel? What's that like? Is there a repercussion in the physical health aspect after it? And then we'll build it gradually. Or equally, if she turns up and says, no, it's all good, go for it, then cool, we'll go for the full 15. But, we've got plenty of options of how we can play with this and make it work so that it feels good for you and feels right for you. The main thing, and the main thing that I'm interested in, that I want you to do, is if you come for energy transmissions, there's a yes to them. Even if there's a little bit of doubt in the mind, you want that yes in your heart. You want that, a bit like awakening, really. There's something in us that the mind cannot explain or fathom, but there's something in us that draws us towards this conversation, this exploration. There's something within us that draws us to energy transmissions. And when that happens, even if the mind's saying, oh, I don't know about this, you know that difference between a mind yes and a heart yes. And so that's the main thing you want, is that when you come to them, you have that yes in your heart to receiving them. And that really is the primary thing that matters. So again, I hope that's helpful. And again, please do follow up if you've got further questions. Just do get in touch and let me know. So one more question then. Can I explain the deal about the one-to-ones and community again? So I've got this great deal where if you book 6 sessions, 6 1-hour Zoom calls for either awakening or enlightenment, or as I mentioned before, it might be just a combo of the both. If you block book 6 sessions, then you automatically get membership, community membership, and access to all of it, free for a month. And because members get 20% off private sessions, you also get 20% off those 6 sessions that you've block booked. And private sessions come automatically with the message coaching that I talked about is available for level 4. So you get a block book of 6 sessions, 1 hour each on Zoom. You get message coaching included automatically within that. So you've kind of already got that level 4 aspect of the membership included for 6 months, maximum 6 months. you may well move through the sessions quicker than that, but maximum 6 months of message-based coaching. You get full access to the community, free for a month. And because you're then in the community, you get this 20% off your 6 sessions. So it's a great option to get a very rounded, full experience. And if you mean it, if you're committed to this exploration, if that yes I just talked about in your heart, if you feel that, if you're so drawn to this conversation and this exploration, that yes is like, I just can't put it down. Like, I don't even know how I would put it down if I tried. That's the sign that you're being drawn into this. Because, of course you are, because you're drawn to the feeling of yourself. You want to know that more, you want to know it more reliably. So this package is a great way that if you're genuinely in it for this, you really want this package is a great way to get a very rounded experience, and with loads of stuff in there, because of course then you also get the weekly calls, you get the monthly calls in the community, you get the Ask Your Questions service within the community. There's just so much value within that. It's by far the best value offer available in terms of exploring with me. So if you were even vaguely thinking about one-to-one, to me it's really a no-brainer. Like, why would you not go with a block booking of 6 sessions? But that would always come on the back of us having a call. So discovery calls, as I mentioned right at the beginning of this actually, 30 minutes free for that kind of conversation where we check and we go, what is it you really want? What is the best fit for you? Is this the right thing? If it's not the right thing from a money perspective, then what's the next best thing we can do that works with your budget or your time availability? So we can, I always want you to do what's right for you, both from what you're interested in right now, what you're committed to, what time is available, what money is available. Why would I ever want to force somebody into something that wasn't right for them? So the point of those discovery calls is absolutely to make sure that we understand each other, we know where we're both up to, and you get the best solution for you in terms of how to move forward, including if that is, actually it's not this right now, it's being on the newsletter, or it's me saying, actually, do you know what, I think this other coach or guide would be perfect for you right now. I value the unique perspective that each different person brings. So if I'm not the right person for you, absolutely, I will be pointing you towards other people to go and work with. So all these links are in the bio link, or if you're watching on YouTube, they'll be in the description below. So the discovery call link, the join as a Wild Fig member link, the have awakening sessions or enlightenment sessions, have energy transmission sessions, everything. All of the links you need are there in the bio or in the description. So go explore, have a look, and if you're unsure, if you want to check, then come back to me and let's get a discovery call, or at the very least let's do some questions and answers back and forth on messages. So thank you to everybody for listening to that and for being here, because I know that all of those questions will have been relevant for you, but I hope there's been useful bits in there for you to understand more of what's available and what could be great for you, what could be just the right thing for you right now. So to close us out then, the very end of our 6 days together, thank you again for being here for this week, for these questions that have been sent through, which clearly I wouldn't have had very much to say today if it hadn't been for those questions being sent. So huge thanks to everybody who sent those questions over. Keep them coming. As I said earlier, I love responding to questions. So whether that's something dropped through on email or on DM, and as I said, if it's something bigger that is more than just a quick answer, then it'll become a video on my YouTube channel. So your gift. Would you like to know about your gift? So I'm very pleased today to offer a free gift of full access to the Wild Fig community. And so that means everything I've just described, those 4 levels of access, from the day-to-day community discussion to the library of resources and archives, the weekly calls, and the private message-based coaching, all of that for free, worth £88 a month. And I have 5 spaces available within the community for that level of membership. And I do limit that level of membership because I want to make sure I can give everybody the quality time and attention they deserve. And so therefore, I'm going to limit the numbers, because if there's too many people, then I can't give you that quality time and attention. So there are currently 5 spaces available at that level of membership, which means there are 5 free gifts available for you. And given some of what I've also said today, so I don't want this to just be a, oh, amazing, free thing, great, I'll sign up for a free thing. And trust me, I've been there, I've done that. And what I've noticed is that when I do that, when I've got a free thing I can just sign up to, I never do the free thing. In fact, I've got one right now sitting in my inbox. I signed up to a free training last week. I have done nothing with it because it was just free and available. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll sign up to that. And didn't give it a thought. I was not invested in it. I hadn't considered whether I really wanted it or needed it. It was just, yeah, it's free. Yeah, I'll do that. So what I really want for you with this free gift is to be invested, to be committed, to have that yes in your heart that we've just been talking about. And so for that reason, it's not just a, right, everybody, here's your coupon code, go grab a free space. My request for you is that if this is a yes in your heart to this exploration, this gift is an incredible opportunity to take steps into this world, to start to explore more deeply, to understand your experience more deeply, to fall more deeply in love with it, and to know more deeply who you are. And so first of all, what I would like you to do is go and check out the About This Community information. Again, I mentioned before, linked in the bio. Go check out the Wild Fig community. So that link will take you straight through to About This Community. And in there, you'll also see the community code, which is like the ways of being that matter to us in the Wild Fig community. And I want you to go and check those things out. You know, check out the vibe of it, check out how it feels, read some of the information that's available about what you get and who I am, and anything that you feel you've kind of missed out on this week that you perhaps haven't felt you've got a handle on. Go and look at that stuff and see, does this resonate? Does this feel like the right thing for me? You might have already had a really good sense of that from being with me this week, but at the very least, just go and have a look, go and scan through, really definitely check out the community code. And if you are still a yes, if you still have that yes in your heart to joining, then get in touch with me. Then drop me a DM, get in touch through the website, whichever method you love the most. I'm on all social media, so you can find me anywhere. But drop me a message, drop me an email, and tell me your yes, that you're in. And then I will be delighted to send you the code to get your free space in the whole space of the community for the next month. And as I said, there are only 5 spaces available, and this deal will only be available for the next 48 hours. So you don't want to hang around. If you've got that yes in your heart already, based on what you've seen of me this week, just take it that step further. Go and check out the About This Community information. Come back to me, tell me your yes. I'll get you the code, assuming you're one of the first 5, assuming it's within the next 48 hours, and you're in, and we'll be so delighted to welcome you into the community. So as I sit here now, it's 3:20 on Saturday, to take a moment then to consider what day it was. So this is going to be available until Monday afternoon UK time, so 3:30, let's say 3:30 UK time on Monday, 48 hours from now. So 48 hours to check that information out, get back to me with your yes. I'll send you the code and you'll get your month for free in the whole space. So thank you so much for everything that you've brought to this week, all the questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence on these lives all this week. I've loved spending the week with you, and I hope you have too. As I said multiple times through this, I'm totally here for ongoing questions and conversation, and anything else you want to know about what we've talked about today, whether it's life experience, whether it's services and offerings, whether it's that free gift I've just mentioned. Drop your questions through. Anything you want to know, please just ask. And just, huge love and thanks for a wonderful week together. And I look forward to seeing who the 5 are who get the spaces to come and join us in the Wildford community. So lots of love. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I look forward to meeting you somewhere soon. Take care.